Well, I'm not really sure how to feel. The Eagles disappointed again while basically rolling over for the New York Giants. Naturally, leading to calls for Nick Sirianni to be fired, but how close are we to that and who'd be the top candidate? Although Jason Kelce shared why he's sticking with Nick, plus a couple key injury updates. And we finally got a surprising admission about the team's identity, or lack of one. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Okay, look, so after several crushing losses against San Francisco and Dallas, plus losing nail-biters to Seattle and shockingly Arizona, I honestly didn't think it could get any worse.
I don't know how much worse it can get.
Thanks, Jameis. I mean, heck, I guess the very first play of the game should have been a good indicator for how it was going to go. After all, Haason Reddick, aka your best pass rusher, was being dropped into coverage. And I'm going to get to that, but I thought Matt Patricia was supposedly changing things last week.
I got to do a better job in that situation of saying, okay, hey, I got stuck in this, or we got stuck in this, let me change it. Let me get, certainly a guy like Haason in the mix where I think he can help us.
I'm sorry, I should know better by now than to trust anything the coaching staff says. Like, dude, I appreciate Jordan Mailata's energy coming into this one, saying the energy's high and I've got a good feeling this week and that the boys are going to get it together and pull one out. But unfortunately, for the second straight week, the team with the lesser record looked like the 11-win team because honestly, it didn't seem to matter. For example, if New York wanted to pass it, they could pass it. And if they wanted to run, they could run.
Are we certain he understands the game?
Of course, I guess maybe I should ask, did anyone really have a good feeling, especially once the snow started falling at MetLife before the game? Seriously, that stadium opened up in 2010, and I'm not sure it's seen a sunny day in its life. Not gonna lie, I won't be shocked to see a class action lawsuit after the number of injuries that have taken place on that turf. I should point out that Jimmy Kimsky noted before the game that dogs were doing some sort of show or something, and one of them dropped one at the 44-yard line, leaving one fan to say, hey, it might actually make the field better. But no, it actually just made it. And I know, it's easier to sit here after the fact and second-guess Sirianni's decision to play the starters, but those of you who've been watching know that I said throughout the week that I'm not so sure you want to start those dudes and have them on the field. Now, I get it, injuries happen every game, but when A.J. Brown went down, that should have been all Sirianni needed to say, hey guys, let's hit the road.
Hey, listen, one of my guys didn't bring his socks, so we forfeit.
Okay, thankfully, as you're probably aware by now, AJ was seen after the game greeting the fellas without a knee brace or a significant limp, which is obviously really good news considering how it looked when he first got injured and as he was headed into the locker room. I mean, I think to say I was beside myself during the stream might be an understatement. However, one injury that we're not so fortunate with was Sidney Brown after the Rook went down during a punt in the first quarter and eventually had to be carted into the locker room, where it's been determined that the Rook suffered a torn ACL, so yeah, he's probably done until like November or December, and definitely prayers up for my guy. But like Outside the Bird said, Sidney Brown tearing his ACL likely impacts his ability to be ready for the start of next season. That's a pretty big blow to Philadelphia's secondary as they hope to turn things around. Now they likely have just Reed Blankenship at safety, assuming Kevin Byard is gone. Not that I need to point this out, but that's not good, yet curious to know how y'all think Howie will address this either in the draft or in free agency. Also, in the more immediate future, Jalen Hurts got nicked up a bit on a throw in the second quarter. Just a fair warning, I'm going to show the replay, and it's not terrible, but just a heads up starting in 3, 2, 1. Again, this was totally avoidable if Sirianni had decided to keep Jalen sidelined or just pulled the starters after the AJ injury. On a positive note though, QB1 did tape it up and come back into play, and Dave Zangaro reported that Hurts didn't have the finger wrap and was carrying a bag after the game, so maybe it's not so bad. Plus, Dr. Jesse Morse on Twitter said the treatment here really depends on whether or not it's a fracture and if there's a ligament tear, since this is his throwing hand and this finger is vital to his throwing ability. The best case scenario is that he wears a splint to prevent hyperextension. If no fractures, then he'll be able to play next week with tape. However, his only limitation is that he may struggle on deep throws for a couple weeks. I mean, it sounds like it won't be so bad, but deep shots are basically the extent of our passing game, so not the best of news. Although, I don't know, maybe that'll force Sirianni and the Eagles to devise a different plan for the blitz, since that and pressure are what got Jalen injured in the first place. But in all seriousness, why should we have any confidence with these dudes? Like they're literally dialing up run action, play action, while asking Jack Stoll to block Kayvon Thibodeau. Come on, what are we doing? And okay, I can appreciate AJ taking a stand and being a leader earlier in the week to say it's on the players. Plus, Fox's Jake Glazer even took it a step further, saying AJ told guys in a players-only meeting that they need to trust the coaches. Yet, maybe don't trust the coaches when it's this bad.
Why is this player who has 4 consecutive seasons of 10-plus sacks dropping in coverage? But if he is going to drop in coverage, you have to understand the coverage assignment. Cover 2, eyes on the quarterback. Stay in coverage. You cannot blitz. You're not a blitzer. You are now a coverage player. Haason Reddick, you cannot vacate this zone, because if you trigger and you blitz, all of a sudden, plus 20-yard gain. That's the first play of the game, family. Let's cut to later on in the game. Now, this is what we call the fire zone 3. It's a 3 deep, 3 under coverage concept. Cornerback, he's deep. Bradbury, he's deep. Safety, off the screen, he's deep. Now, what you're going to see here, Josh Sweat, he is off of the number 3 wide receiver. Count from outside in. 1, 2, Saquon Barkley, he's going to be 3. Down safety, he's off the number 2 wide receiver. Count from outside in. 1, 2. Again, Saquon is 3. Let's see how this plays out. Now, Sweat, why they got this dude dropping in coverage? Sweat, he's like, okay, I'm off of number 3. But here's the problem, America. He is now the number 3 receiver, because the running back who was 3, he went to the flat, making him 2. The number 2 receiver who was 2, he came in, making him number 3. Josh Sweat, he has to just drop backwards, because now count from outside in. 1, 2, 3. Just like that, you got 2 dudes covering 1. Plus 33-yard gain against the Philadelphia Eagles defense. I told you, break out your vomit bags. It gets worse. Later on in the game, empty formation. You're going to see a quarters coverage look, which means this linebacker, number 52, he is the quarter flat defender on the number 2 wide receiver. Quarter flat. You have him 12 yards vertically, collision him. If he goes to the flat, you got him to the flat. If he goes to the flat, you got him to the flat. Because if you don't take him to the flat, ain't nobody taking him to the flat. So I do not have a clue what the Eagles defense is doing. But I do know it is atrocious. It is awful. It is gross. I don't know what they're putting on tape. They look poorly coached, and Matt Patricia, Sean Desai, Nick Sirianni do not look like they have given these players enough repetitions to know how to cognitively play any sort of competent defensive football.
Look, we've all been saying it, but I just can't understand it more. I mean, the coaches are flat out terrible. And who knows, as much as I didn't want to admit it at the time, maybe the 49ers did break the birds. Because since starting the season 10-1, the Eagles are the only team to finish with 6 or more losses in NFL history. Oh yeah, and not to get to 12 wins either, which is already bad, but especially bad when you consider the extra game in the schedule now. Honestly though, if you go back to whenever we were 10-1, did any of you expect to be sitting here at 11-6? Even as bad as the defense has been, I never expected it, but I think it's blatantly obvious now that Sirianni scapegoated Sean Desai, yet unfortunately Patricia's only made things worse. So naturally, after the embarrassing beatdown in the Meadowlands, Philly owner Jeffrey Lurie decided to go down into the locker room and have a little talk with Sirianni.
Hello, Edward.
Ron, I've got to fire you.
Well, I've got to fire you. Bing, bong, bong. You're fired, Ed.
Okay, but how surprised would you be at this point? I mean, probably not much, considering the fact that Fire Sirianni has been trending on X along with other firings. And there's no way Lurie can be happy with the product he's seen on the field, especially after the past couple weeks. However, Dallas Goedert has a theory for why the fellas just haven't been clicking.
I just know everybody in this locker room is ready to go to work for the playoffs, and ever since 4 or 5 weeks ago when we clinched the playoffs, I think everybody's just been waiting for the playoffs. So not something that is a great thing, but I think everybody's going to be ready to go, and I think we're going to show the world what we're capable of.
Cool, man, but you can't tell me that we've been secretly bored or holding back like the conspiracy theory suggesting Rashad Penny's being saved for playoffs. By the way, Rashad did play, but to the tune of 6 carries for 16 yards, so I think that's all you need to say about the RB. Either way, at least Jason Kelce is still calling it like it is.
We got a lot to fix, got a lot to do better. I mean, I don't know that it's the worst stretch of football since Nick has been here. And it's very, very frustrating. But we're in the playoffs, and now it's one and done. You're out. You have the Buccaneers this next week, and we're going to focus and prepare and try to go and win the game.
Okay, forgive me, but I'm struggling to believe this team's going to do much in the playoffs. And perhaps unsurprisingly, Sirianni's message to the team afterward was, "We're 0-0. It's time to go on a run." Oh, but don't worry, Nick knows what he's doing.
I know what I'm doing.
Okay, on second thought, no. He has no clue. It's really crazy because I didn't feel this way before, but I think Sirianni is coaching for his job this week. And with the way things are going, it wouldn't surprise me to get a breaking news tweet from Schefter after the playoffs that the Birds have parted with Nick. I don't know, maybe that's still overreactionary, but how are y'all feeling? And I guess the better question is, if they did fire Sirianni, who would you want as the new head coach? Yeah, I've seen a couple names like Jim Harbaugh or maybe Eric Bieniemy or even Todd Monken from Baltimore, which I don't hate, but I'll do a further breakdown about those in a future video. What I will say is that either way, this team needs to find a new identity, or really just find an identity, period. Because you know it's bad when Jalen can't answer the question for what their identity is after an entire season.
I think that's been something that we've searched for, and we've been searching for, right? We haven't really had the consistency that we've desired as a team, and that's something that we've been kind of looking for. We see glimpses of it, and we had that conversation all the time, and where there are moments where you see it, and then there are moments where it's like, oh man, something's not clicking, and so we gotta find a way to be consistent more often.
Okay, yeah, probably not the best sign. Plus, when Zach Cunningham was asked the same question after the game by Brooks Cabina, he said, "We spent the whole season trying to find out exactly what identity we have as a team, so I don't know exactly what I can say for that." That just about says it all. And I agree with Honest NFL's assessment saying, I think their process and planning is just unacceptable from an NFL team. It's just asking for inconsistency. Now look, maybe he believes this, or maybe he's just sticking with his head coach, but even with all the struggles and poor play, Kelce's backing Sirianni.
I think everybody in the locker room has faith in Nick Sirianni. I think it's, it hasn't been pretty, obviously, the last month. To say it would be an understatement. But we've had a lot of really, really successful football with Nick. I think he does a lot of really, really good things organizationally. Every game that we play is ultimately a reflection of the team and the head coach, right? So, whether you win or lose, it's always going to come down. And, when you're in the position of leadership or when you're the head guy, you're going to bear the brunt of it. But I think that there's a lot of things that collectively we can all do better at. And, for me, I don't have any lack of faith or trust in Nick Sirianni.
Is it basically the players? Is it basically the players that have to be accountable here and not the coaches?
Well, it's both. It's always both, and especially when you're that bad. When you're that bad offensively, when you're that bad defensively, it's always players and coaches. It's never a one-way street. So we have to perform much better, and I have to do my job. I mean, I've been here for a long time. I'm supposed to be providing a beacon of how to do things properly, and I don't think that has come across, especially not today. So I think, it's whenever you're this bad, as of late, I think it's always both. Everybody's got to be accountable.
Yeah, no doubt. Everyone needs to be held accountable. And good for Quez Watkins catching a touchdown while racking up 93 yards. But hey man, when your squad loses 27-10, it's maybe not the best optics to go posting on Instagram. I'll forever bet on myself. Like, I'm sorry, but with all due respect, this dude's just so unself-aware.
Whoa, I said with all due respect.
That doesn't mean you get to say whatever you want to say to me.
Sure as heck does.
No, it doesn't mean that.
It's in the Geneva Convention. Look it up.
Okay, y'all already know I don't want to see this dude back with the Birds. And Sirianni's same old rhetoric of "it starts with me" has gotten more than a little frustrating. So I don't blame you if you're ready to take him out too. And like I said, it feels like his days are numbered. As Les Bowen mentioned, people keep telling me there is no way Sirianni gets fired. I'm not around this team, but I know a little bit about Jeffrey Lurie. I've never seen an Eagles team play this way down the stretch without the coach getting fired. I mean, this may sound crazy, but personally, this has got to be one of the most disappointing Eagles seasons ever. Look, I know we're still in playoffs, but to go 1-5 to finish after starting 10-1 and show no fight is unreal. And I just feel bad for the vets like Kelce, BG, and Fletch because we could seriously be looking at only one game left for those legends. Although I will say Fletch at least sounds confident.
I know the guys that we got in this locker room. This team has won 11 games. You know how hard it is to do in the NFL to win 11 professional football games. It's really, really hard. You know how hard it is to get into the postseason? It's really, really hard. You know how many teams having exit meetings tomorrow? A whole lot of them. We're not one of those teams. We're going to keep fighting, and that's the end of it.
Seriously, though, I know I asked this last week, but is there a reason to be optimistic? Sure, at least the Eagles opened up as favorites to the Bucs, and I know that they could only beat the Panthers 9-0 as they limped into the playoffs themselves, but I'd probably still go ahead and grab the Tampa plus 2.5 if you still can. However, if you're still saying, hey, come on, we've still got a chance, you're not wrong, because we did throttle Tampa 25-11 when we played them earlier this season thanks to an unstoppable ground game and defense that made some really impressive plays, but that feels so long ago at this point. However, at least we're officially playing on Monday Night Football though, so it'll give AJ and Smitty some extra time to recover from their injuries, although it could also give whoever we play in the second round, assuming we won, extra rest compared to our schedule. Regardless though, we'll be live as always with play-by-play reactions and a watch party for anyone wanting to come and hang out. Let's take a look at the playoff picture real quick with us playing Tampa, Detroit hosting LA, and Dallas hosting Green Bay. Personally, I feel like there will at least be one upset on the NFC side, so kinda thinking we might play Dallas in Dallas again, but obviously we've got to take care of business first. Alright, let me know what you guys expect to see in the playoffs, who your favorites are, and how are we feeling now that the regular season is over? What do you want to see? This has been the Philly Special.